The following production is brought to you by the Talkin' Buds Leaf Show.
Here we go, Talkin' Buds Leaf Show, episode 252. Back again, bright and early on a Sunday morning, as we always are. Not next Sunday, though, because their schedule is really weird. They don't play a lot of hockey in the next few weeks. They don't play next Saturday night. They play next Sunday at home against the Utah Hockey Club. So we'll have to sort of rejig our schedule this upcoming week. We're in the midst of a pretty good sports weekend right now, Ryan. I mean, it started off with a bang on Friday night with Mike Tyson against Jake Paul.
I could do 30 minutes on that. I could do 30 minutes on that, no problem.
It was that was a sad moment for the human species on Friday night.
Sad moment for combat sports, where that's the highest selling fight of the year. It's like, what a joke. Absolute joke.
Well, I'm watching it and I'm thinking to myself, like, what did we all expect?
Exactly.
Yeah, like what did we think was going to happen?
Every year I have like a lock of the century. Okay? Like every year there's a bet that's the lock of the century for me. Anybody who was putting their hard-earned money on a 60-year-old man to have a puncher's chance, like, just delete your sports book. Just get rid of it. Yeah. Just delete FanDuel, delete ScoreBet, whatever you use. Just get rid of it. It's embarrassing.
Well, people were talking about, people are like talking themselves into the idea that Mike Tyson, like you said, at 57 years old, is going to catch Jake Paul and put him to sleep. And it's like, no, he's 57. He can't even get up the stairs.
If I didn't know any better, I would have thought that Vince McMahon was booking the fights this weekend. Like just two fights that make, like, who wants to see that? Apparently a lot of people want to see it because 60 million people streamed it, which is absolutely embarrassing. And even tried to stream it. Yeah, I think that was the main event of that card, was how bad the streaming was. But I didn't even try. Yeah. To me, like, I might as well just give up being a sports fan if I wasted my life watching any minute of that. What a joke.
Then Saturday we had Leafs Oilers, UFC 309, football Sunday today. You got some great matchups. You got Packers Bears, you got Bills Chiefs. It's Grey Cup Sunday if you're into that.
Yeah.
People laugh at me, but I always check out the Grey Cup. I like the Canadiana of it. I always fire it on and watch a little bit of it.
I think it's important to show your Canadian colors sometimes. I was on scrolling through Instagram the other day, and I was on like this Don Cherry thread, and we all know that Cherry was at like the end of his rope there at the end where he couldn't even string a sentence together. But I saw they made a really good point that the only thing that this country is missing with him being a senior citizen, not on television anymore, is that guy made you so proud to be Canadian. And I was like, that's a really good point. So I think anytime anyone lives in this country could just show their Canadiana a little bit, I think that's an important thing to do. So good on you.
100% agree. So Leafs Oilers. Every time these two teams meet, specifically on Hockey Night in Canada, it's electric. A couple things we want to get into today. You pointed out, like, they played 19 games, so they're basically a quarter of the way through the season. We'll sort of give our take on where we think they're at. An eventful. Let's just start quickly with the Ryan Reaves hit on Darnell Nurse. It's a bang bang play that looked really bad. I do not think I'm not gonna lie to you. I get a little worn out with the analysis of it and just this is dirty. Get it out of the game. And it's like, listen, it's a bad hit. It's a hit to the head. He's gonna get fined. He's gonna get suspended. I'm on board with that. I don't have any issue with that. He's not trying to hurt the guy. They're going a million miles an hour out there. I really, when stuff like this happens, there have been instances in the past where guys have deliberately tried to hurt other guys. That's not what this was. And I find the soapboxing from certain analysts in this city just a bit exhausting. Like, just get off your high horse. It was a bang bang play. He's going to get suspended. Relax.
And you watch Ryan Reaves play hockey. He's not exactly always in control of what he's doing. He's skating. He's not exactly the most fluid skater, fluid hockey player with finesse. He just went in for a hit and just got caught in a bad spot, got it to the head. Darnell Nurse is a tall guy, too. So to get up that high to hit him in the head, the over-analysis, whatever. He's going to get suspended. It is what it is. I don't think he meant to do it. And that's all really I can say about it.
At this point in time, I think the conversation around this hockey team begins and ends with Mitch Marner. Mitch Marner was electric all game long against the Oilers on Saturday night. He's been electric for the most part since Auston Matthews has been out of the lineup. We've talked about it. We've talked about the insistence on putting these two together. We've talked about how different he looks away from Auston Matthews. It's as if he's sort of assumed the best player leadership role, and he's executing at a level that I think this is the best version of him is when he's playing his 200-foot game. He's creating, he's making things happen, hard on the back check. Like, look at the OT goal last night. That's all you need to know to sum up how he played. He makes the defensive stop and then takes it the other way and wires it home.
I mean, at this point, how could it not be a legit opinion? I just, the proof is they're 5-1 without him. That is a significant record, and they've been winning hockey games in different ways while he's gone, and Mitch Marner's really been driving the bus, and it shows you that he cannot only elevate, because the whole premise of him and Matthews playing together is just he's going to feed him the puck, and he's going to give him opportunities, he's going to elevate, but you give Mitch Marner the ability to elevate other players in the lineup who need to be elevated more than Auston Matthews, then you can see how effective and useful he is. And especially when he's actually dialed in and is invested in throughout the hockey game on both ends of the puck. So, I mean, 5-1 without Auston Matthews. What argument can you make? The only time you're watching the games without him and you're kind of like, I miss this guy in the lineup, is the first two periods they couldn't capitalize, they couldn't score a goal. And I'm watching the first two, and you need another goal scoring threat out there. He's just too good of a goal scorer to not have out there when you're struggling to put the puck in the net at times. So that's where you can't have the take where they're better without Matthews, because just having someone with the ability to score at any time is just so important. But 5-1 without him, he's scoring big goals. Last night in overtime, he makes that big play defensively, and then he goes down. Instead of if that was Auston Matthews on the other side, he wouldn't have shot that puck. No way. 0% chance he shoots that puck.
Why, Ryan? It blows my mind. Just the difference in mentality and the difference in execution. It's blowing my mind. Is it really that? Is having Auston Matthews' presence really that significant to you that it completely changes the way you play offensively? And I want to say offensively because I think Marner's always been a great defensive player, PKer, all that stuff, but he's just so much more no bullshit. That's the best way to put it. Without Auston Matthews, he's just way less bullshit, and he's just driving like you just said it. Perfect example. If that's Auston Matthews on the other end of that 2-on-1, he's trying some pretty pass that may or may not work and whatever, and instead it's not, and he just wires it home. And that is a perfect microcosm, and it's blowing my mind just how different his mentality seems to be and the way he plays is without Auston Matthews. It's unbelievably different.
I think the only thing you can look for going forward is maybe just somebody, I said this in a previous episode, maybe somebody can just point out that to him in a meeting, a coach, someone in the organization can just give him an example of this is how you're playing with Auston Matthews, this is how you're playing without Auston Matthews. Now, do I think they're going to do that? No, because for some reason, when those two are together, you can't get in that bubble. You can't touch it. You can't criticize it. You can't move them around. So I don't know if someone is actually going to do that, but if someone was smart, they would sit him down, put together a bunch of plays that he would make with Auston Matthews and without Auston Matthews, and give him an example of this is what you can do. You don't always have to force feed him, but that's just not going to happen because Matthews is the prince of the organization. And
Well, at
I
this
think
point,
when he comes back, they're going to be back together. And I think you're going to go back to seeing some of the old habits that you saw before. I honestly think that's going to happen, but hopefully he can just learn something and actually recognize that his game is different and a lot better without him. So maybe when they put them back together, because that is going to happen 100%, that he can just use what he's done lately and implement that going forward with Auston Matthews. I don't know.
I don't understand why it has to happen. You saw Matthews meshed well. The best version that we've seen of Max Domi since he's been a Maple Leaf has been playing on Auston Matthews' wing. Mitch Marner has proved for the last 6 games, that he doesn't need Auston Matthews to be a dynamic ice tilter of a hockey player. Why? And you said this last episode or 2 episodes ago. I don't care that that's what Auston Matthews wants. Like, I really don't care. Like, you don't run the organization. And when and again, like everything, there's nuance. Not everything is black and white. I'm not saying, you're not saying, nobody's saying that they can never be on the ice together again going forward. It's just, we kind of got in a bit of a habit there where they never went anywhere without each other. And they're always like, they weren't split up at all. And I just think it makes your teams so much more dynamic, so much more dangerous, and so much harder to defend when you've got the love spread out.
Yeah, I think every NHL team with elite talent, that's ultimately the goal, is to spread out the elite talent as much as possible. But
what would be wrong with going Matthews, Domi, Nylander on line 1, McMann, Tavares, Marner on line 2?
Nothing would be wrong
And
with
then
it. But what would happen is what happens every time. They would start out hot, and then they would go through like a 2 or 3 game stretch where things start to slow down, and then we'll hop back on here again and be like, they got to mix the lines up again, and then it will just. That's what this fucking team is. That's what this organization is. It's a hot potato of lines, and it just switches and switches and switches throughout 82 games, and you try to find the right recipe going into the playoffs. But the problem is when you go into the playoffs, none of the recipes ever work because they can't fucking score in the playoffs.
The stat that blew everyone's mind that they shared on the broadcast on Saturday night was the Maple Leafs are 14-0-1 when Bobby McMann scores a goal.
Yeah, crazy.
You and I have talked about just this guy's ascension up the ranks within the organization and how it's seemingly overnight last year he leapfrogged a guy like Nick Robertson on the depth chart. And he scores the goal on Saturday night where he absolutely turns the Jets on and wheels in and tucks it home. And this guy, there are nights with Bobby McMann where you don't notice him, but there are other nights when he's clicking, where you're like, this guy's a legitimate top 6 forward in this league.
Yeah. And the direct comparison is always going to be Nick Robertson, because he just makes plays that Nick Robertson can't make. And they're compared because I think they both have like pretty, I don't want to say elite, but they have a high-end scoring ability. They both can shoot the puck. They both can make plays offensively. But Bob McMann just consistently makes plays that Nick Robertson can't. Like, Nick Robertson is not scoring that goal he scored last night. Nick Robertson's not going in and forechecking and separating a man from the puck. And that's just the biggest difference between those two guys. And it's not surprising that they're 14-0-1. And this goes back to the depth scoring conversation. It's just when you get a guy lower in your lineup who's capable of potting 20 in this league pretty easily, I think he's that good. I think he has the speed to do it. That's a recipe for success, is when he's going, and it makes their lineup so much better when he's going, because again, you go look at their lines, and this is why I think Matthews and Marner are going to play together when they come back. It's just that third line is such a sinkhole sometimes offensively. So when and he's not on the third line right now, he's playing up the lineup, but it's just, the big boys are going to get their points. So anytime a guy like Bobby McMann can just come in and just make a play like that, it makes a huge difference, because it's just that extra goal that they need to send it to OT or to win a hockey game in regulation. So, I mean, depth scoring, we kind of said that the top guys obviously need to drive the bus, and that's how they're going to win. But if you really, really want to be extremely successful, and again, every NHL team is talk to the Edmonton Oilers about this. If you got depth scoring and guys who are contributing up and down the line, look at the Winnipeg Jets. They are contributing all their success to their fourth line, to their third line. They got a 4-line hockey team. So again, if Bobby McMann is just continuing to put the puck in the net, and that goes along with Nylander and Marner's 1-2 points a night, then how can they not be successful?
Today's episode of the Talking Buds Leaf Show is brought to you by Game Time.
Rob, the girlfriend and I just got a place right downtown. And since we've been down here, you know I've been to a couple Jays games. You know I've been to some concerts. And you know for a fact I'll be in the building for a couple Leaf games this season. And anytime I need to grab tickets to an event, I use Game Time.
I recently used Game Time to grab some tickets for you and me to go see Creed at Scotiabank Arena in November. I'm getting warmed up. I'm getting excited. Home and now.
All right. If you keep going, they won't want to do business with us anymore.
All right. I digress. I'll save my Scott Stapp impression for another time.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea.
Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier.
Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets.
Game Time Picks curates and makes it easier to save more on sports, concerts, comedy, and theater.
They've got my favorite feature, which is called Seat Views, where you can get a panoramic view of your seat in the app before you buy.
Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code THPN for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code THPN for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it?
Game Time.
Obviously, you brought up the Nick Robertson. Obviously. You brought up the Nick Robertson comparison. And we'll use this to sort of dovetail into our quarter of the way through the season discussion. We'll start with Nick Robertson. There is a large part of me, Ryan, that feels bad for the guy. Like if you pull up just the way their lineup is constructed, I do not see a space for him to get into the top 6. No. And you're playing like, man, you're not going to score a lot of goals on a line with David Kampf and Pontus Holmberg. Like it's like that's a huge ask for that kid, and it's becoming increasingly clear that barring them dealing with a rash of injuries, I just don't think there's a place for him here. And I was watching the game with a buddy of mine last night. And we were talking about Nick Robertson, and I said, you know, if you traded him to like a San Jose, a Columbus, Anaheim, he would play in those teams' top 6 every night, and those would be the valuable reps he would need to maybe ascend and get to the next level. I just think it's a square peg, round hole situation here, and I don't see the opportunity that I think he needs to ascend and get to the next level as a hockey player in this league.
No, I think it's pretty clear at this point. I think they're giving him all the opportunity in the world too, because even if you are on that third line,
is that true, Ryan? Like, is having him out there with David Kampf and Pontus Holmberg a fair opportunity?
I think so. You're in the NHL. You don't necessarily. Are you going to get 100 points playing with those guys? 80 points, 70 points? No, but there's things you could be doing that could prove that you could get a chance in the top 6, and he's just not doing anything. You can do something on that third line with those two guys where you go, yeah, it's not the most ideal situation for him to be playing with two guys who are inept offensively, but there are small things you could be doing to show the coaches that, okay, let's give this guy a shot in the top 6, but he doesn't do anything. So it's just like, do we really want to waste a top 6 spot on a guy who's just provides nothing but potentially the opportunity to score a goal every night? And I don't even trust him to do that. So, I mean, you could make a point that you could give him a shot in the top 6, but I just don't think he's earned it. I really don't think he's earned it at all. And I think just him being in the lineup every single night, which I'm sure in the offseason was his agent and his play. It's like, just give me a shot to be in the lineup. Give me a shot to have a run of games in the NHL. And so far through 19, I know he sat out a couple, but I think he's gotten a pretty decent shake to show the coaching staff that he could do something. And he just hasn't. He's too small. He doesn't forecheck. He hasn't scored. He just hasn't really done anything.
Yeah. All right. Quarter of the way through the season, the record is basically on par with what it's been the last several years. Like 11-6-2 is like right the exact same as it's been. They've had a very good November so far, which is, you and I called them the November Goats because that's what they are.
Yeah.
Where are you at with this? I think a lot, the detractors, the naysayers, still believe that this Craig Berube system is sort of stymieing this team offensively a bit. And we watch it and we watch.
Such a stupid take, man. Such a brutal take.
It's funny, dude. It's so funny when people give that take because it's like you're so biased to the previous regime, and I have no idea why, but whatever. But it is fair. It is a fair critique to say that they've struggled to score some nights. Like they don't. The offense doesn't free flow as much as it has been because Berube is being so stringent about playing a defensive system and being responsible all over the ice. But this is going to sound cliche. Well, my take on it is you look at the record, it's on par with what it's been in the previous years. Their underlying numbers, go look them up on any website. They're better than they've been in any year under Sheldon Keefe. To me, cliche, but this is a lot more conducive to having playoff success playing this way than in the Sheldon Keefe era. And I think that was the whole goal going into this season. I think Treliving knew it. I think Berube knew it. I think it's just, we can't do what Sheldon Keefe and his staff like to do, which was wait until we got till February and March and say, okay, we've been running and gunning for the last 3 months. Now we need to buckle down and play more responsible defensive hockey. It's just, we need to do that from the onset. And if it impacts our offense a little bit on a nightly basis, so be it. And at the end of the day, to everyone who's crying about it, the record's the exact fucking same as it's been in the last previous years.
I think this is such a stupid take because you just laid it out right there. Okay, cool. They were running and gunning and scoring more goals with Sheldon Keefe as their coach and Kyle Dubas as their GM. They get in the playoffs. Guess what? They couldn't score. So ultimately, who fucking cares how many run and gun goals they score in the regular season? They basically have the exact same record that they have in the past season, somewhat playing a different style. Yes, they've scored less goals, but at least someone is trying to implement a system that's going to work in April. And we all know that we can come on here episode after episode during the regular season and give takes, but ultimately this team is going to be judged by what they're going to do against the Tampa Bay Lightning or Boston Bruins in the first round of the playoffs. So I don't want to hear this. They have a hard time scoring goals. Like, they're still winning hockey games. They're winning games in different ways. The past 2 wins have been incredible wins where they necessarily didn't have their best game, but they found a way to get it done. And I just think that ultimately this team is going to be judged by what they're going to do in April. So I'm not going to sit here in November and cry about all the run and gun offense that they're missing, because that's not the goal here. The goal isn't to keep up the regular season offense as it was a year ago. No, the goal is to try and get this team in a mindset to play a certain way to win in April. So I'm going to trust the process of what Craig Berube is doing. And ultimately, in April, that's when it will be judged, because it was nice watching them score six goals a game, playing shitty defense and just playing all for offense, but going into April and all of a sudden there was no offense. So that take is awful. It's awful because when they needed to score in the big moments, they couldn't. So I don't really understand why people are like gravitating towards that take and comparing it to past seasons.
Because there's a certain segment of the fan base who's just, for whatever bizarre reason, is very, very devoted to the guy who used to be the GM of this team.
I honestly think that those people need to just, I don't even know. I hate them.
That guy being the age he is and having the hockey background that he does makes these people feel a certain way about themselves, and they feel really good as hockey fans because they feel like they can relate to Kyle Dubas, which is absolutely hilarious when you see the absolute fucking hack job he's done with the Pittsburgh Penguins, and the guy's literally ruining Sidney Crosby's last years of his career.
And okay, finish your point.
No, go ahead.
Okay, and you know what kills me about this is if you look back on Kyle Dubas' job as a general manager, like what real positives can you say? He was set up with a roster, with a core, to go and have long, deep playoff runs every single season. That's what he was set up with. And you know what he did with it? Flushed it down the toilet. Did nothing with it. Signed brutal contracts, drafted absolutely no one, had no success, basically traded away all their draft picks to potentially fill in that bottom depth with a bunch of dudes at the trade deadline.
With literally nothing to show.
Nothing.
Yeah. And with nothing to show for it. All those guys that he went out and got at the deadline all left.
And to be fair, at the time, we were like, oh, nice. Ryan O'Reilly. Oh, nice. Nick Foligno. Well, like at the time, we were like, okay, that's a good move. They need toughness. But hindsight being 2020, I don't understand why people love this guy so much. He did nothing. He did absolutely nothing but set this organization back a couple of years. I just, I want someone to come on here who's a Dubasite and just lay out the facts of why they love this guy so much.
Because I know he makes them feel
in the back of their
way.
mind, it's like it's a mental thing. But just show me the hockey facts of what this guy did to make this team any good and why he's a good general manager. Because I can go down the list of things he did. Yeah, he found Jack Campbell. They got 2 years out of him. Yeah, he found Michael Bunting, who was a pretty good player for them for a couple of years.
The best thing he did is he signed Matt Nyes, who's going to be, as I say, a pillar of this team's future.
Yeah, but go through all the players he drafted. It's the only guy. Like you think, okay, so he hit one set of like 25 picks. Like, wow.
Oh yeah,
good for you, bud.
Without question. Yeah, without question.
So I just don't understand the funny thing, love for him so much.
Not to get off on this tangent, but the funny thing is when they drafted Easton Cowan last year, that was a Brad Treliving draft pick, and all these same people were just so up in arms about going off the board and getting Easton Cowan. The guy proceeds to go and have the goatest season ever in the history of the Ontario Hockey League, and now it's like, whoa, Easton Cowan, and it's like, you all hated this, but if that was the Messiah making that pick, you would have thought it was look at him and his team going off the board. It is what it is. We don't need to go down a Kyle Dubas rabbit hole here. He makes people, and it's people in the media too. It's not just fans. Like there are people in the media who are devoted to this guy. It's weird. It's really weird, but it's the way he sees the game is not conducive to having success in the playoffs because his metrics don't account for someone having the heart. I always come back to when the Leafs played the Bruins last year and the game that the Bruins won where they went up 3-1 and at the disaster game 4. And I remember Jim Montgomery after the game saying, Brad Marchand walked into the rink tonight, and the second I saw him, I knew we weren't losing this game. That Kyle Dubas system doesn't account for that. And I do think that there's an emotional element in this game and in sports in general that you just can't account for with a number. Numbers are super valuable and they're great and they tell a story and you should absolutely use them, but they're not everything. And I think the people who have the most success are the ones who find a way to combine like eye test, emotion, intangibles with analytics. And when you swing too far in either direction, it doesn't work. So it's that simple. Anyways, I digress. Let's get back to quickly get back to a few observations at the quarter of the season mark here. Without question, you got a top 5 goaltender in the league. And that, to me, that has been the story of this early season so far. is Anthony Stolarz has been this team's MVP, and it's a level of competent goaltending they have not had in a very, very long time. I would probably say back to, like, you could talk about Freddie Anderson in the playoffs, but he was pretty, when healthy, he was pretty steady for you in the regular season. And I think this is the most stable they've been in that position with Anthony Stolarz in a very long time.
Yeah, agreed. Absolutely agree. I can't really think of any really like soft goals he's let in. Like, obviously he's not going to some nights he's going to give up 2+, 3+. That's just what happens in this league. I look at all the goals Edmonton scored last night, and I'm not once am I looking at him being like, you should have had that. Yeah. Or any goal this season where it's, you should have had that. That was soft. I think he's just been really, really good, and his stats prove it. His stats back it up too. I really hope he keeps it going. I don't see why he can't. Again, I understand how many games he's played in the NHL. All those people who like to talk about that, here's what I think about it. And yeah, I hope he keeps it going because I love him.
Also, sticking on the off-season additions, we've said this, the defense is way better. The additions of both Chris Tanev and Oliver Ekman-Larsson have made a huge difference. Those guys, you hit on it last episode, I think it was, bringing those guys in has slotted everybody into their correct position. So you've got Jake McCabe, who's in an ideal spot on that second pair. You've got Morgan Riley, who's way more relaxed and doesn't have to carry the load like he has in previous years. You've had a really good sort of season from Connor Timmins, who has turned into Craig Berube's favorite hockey player.
No, didn't see that one coming.
No, didn't see that one coming at all. But their defense is just way better from just like a positional and like less sketchy standpoint. And that's been a huge reason for why I think they've had a pretty good start to the season. And then you move into the forwards, and I talk about him every week. Again, Matt Nyes absolutely wires it home. You want to give the finger about the Matt Nyes stat too?
Yeah. That's how I feel.
Your two favorite stats.
Yeah. You can't tell me this guy. And okay, you can go to the net and bury goals, kind of turn into a Zach Hyman. Last night he was in the high slot and absolutely ripped it home. You telling me this guy can't score in the NHL? He's 22 years old. Yes, he hasn't been an elite scorer anywhere he's been, but just look at the raw attributes talent of this human being. Like, come on, you telling me this guy can't score in the NHL?
Yep. And lastly, I mean, if you want to talk the forward group, we talked about it last episode. John Tavares has been very good. Like, John Tavares has been the best version of himself that he can be at his age so far, and it's been very, very impressive. And agree to disagree, I think taking the C off the sweater has been very good for him. I think it's allowed him to sort of step back and just focus on himself and not worry about all the responsibilities with the media, etc., that come with being the captain. And I take your hat off to John Tavares. He's been excellent.
Yeah. And they've just, the past two games, they have just scored big goals at the right time. And it's been two really extremely entertaining, fun hockey games to watch. I think the Edmonton game, I would have been okay with them just getting a point in that game. Anytime they can just get a point, if you look at the standings at the end of the year, the teams that can just get that extra point, and even though they lose that hockey game, it makes a difference. So, but they've scored two big overtime goals. They've scored big third period goals. And it just changes. Like, if they lose those two games, what are the conversations we're having right now? They're probably a little bit different. Yeah, no, it's gone back to they need Auston Matthews. They can't win without Auston Matthews. When you don't have your best player, it changes everything, blah, 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 blah. And that's not the case right now. And I think as far as the Matthews thing goes, like, we have no idea what his injury is. It's upper body. He's skating. He's not skating. He's going to play. He's not going to play. And we're kind of in that spot. But like I said at the top of the episode, if you look at their schedule, like, they do not play a lot of hockey over the next little bit. And I think the idea is just keep them out and let them. They've got a lot of time off. Like, they don't play again till Wednesday against Vegas, and then Sunday, and then the following Wednesday. So, like, that's a lot of days off here. So I think if they come back after next week and he's still not playing, this is more serious than we thought. But at the same time, the theme of this episode,
they've looked pretty damn good without him. So keep him out as long as he needs. Get him back to 100%.
Yeah. I don't really know. I honestly haven't been following like anything that anybody's saying about him. Because when you're out of the lineup, like I really don't care about you. I really don't.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go. All right, buddy. Like I said, we'll be back at some point this week. We'll have to figure out a time, probably after the Vegas game, to do an episode. And then we will not be here next Sunday because the Leafs play Sunday night. So our schedule will be a bit in flux. We'll keep everybody posted about that. But we have committed to 2 episodes a week, and 2 episodes a week is what you're going to get. So if this is your first time checking us out, hit that like and subscribe button below. Follow us on the socials. If you're listening to the audio version, like, subscribe, review, all that fun stuff.
Spread the word. Tell your friends.
We really appreciate it. We'll see you guys in a couple of days.